if you pride yourself on being a good person, this works especially well on you. Society teaches a very specific narrative about morality. You are told that being a good, ethical, and empathetic person acts as a shield. You are told that if you do the right thing, if you treat people fairly, and if you operate with integrity, you will naturally be protected from toxic environments. This is a convenient illusion. For a specific type of mind, empathy and morality are not just warm feelings. They are highly complex, data-heavy, cognitive frameworks. When your brain is wired to process the world through a lens of extreme fairness and structural understanding, you do not realize that your intellect is actually leaving a backdoor wide open. Your high tolerance is consistently mistaken for weakness, and your capacity to understand is weaponized against you. Today, we are going to decode the 5 invisible ways your moral framework makes you the easiest target in the room. If you do even 1 or 2 of these things, you will finally understand why doing the right thing often leaves you feeling completely drained and exploited. Pay very close attention to number 3. It will completely dismantle the way you experience guilt, and it will permanently change how you view your own reactions. Method number 1 is the context trap. Most people judge a situation purely by the surface action. If someone is rude, they label them a bad person. If someone lies, they cut them off. People with analytical empathy do not stop at the surface. You look for the root cause of the behavior. Psychologically, your brain relies on complex causal reasoning. You do not just see an action. You naturally build a psychological profile of the people around you. You map out their past traumas, their current stressors, and their insecurities to make sense of why they are acting the way they are. Imagine a partner or a coworker lashes out at you unfairly. Instead of getting angry and defending yourself, you immediately rationalize their behavior. You think, they are just under a lot of pressure at work right now. Or, they had a very difficult childhood and don't know how to regulate their emotions. You excuse the disrespect because you understand the psychology behind it. You give them the benefit of the doubt. This is not naivety. It is high-level data synthesis. You see the entire board, not just the single piece moving against you. The severe downside is that your immense capacity for understanding becomes a free pass for manipulators. You absorb and endure unacceptable behavior simply because your brain is smart enough to explain it. This leads us directly to the second mechanism. Method number 2 is the competence burden. Most people have absolutely no problem letting a system fail if it isn't their direct responsibility. They will watch a project crash or a situation devolve and simply walk away. People with structural foresight cannot physically look away from a collapsing system. Your brain operates with a hyperactive executive function. When you see inefficiency, incompetence, or impending failure, your neurochemistry registers it as cognitive dissonance. Chaos causes you actual psychological friction, and you are biologically compelled to restore order. You see this when a team member drops the ball on a critical task, or when someone in your personal life fails to plan a crucial detail. Instead of letting them face the consequences of their own laziness, you step in. You fix the errors, you organize the data, and you do the work yourself. You tell yourself that you are just being helpful, or that it is easier to do it yourself than to watch it fail. You are not a control freak. You possess advanced optimization algorithms. You see the fastest path to stability, and you take it. The heavy downside is that manipulators quickly learn they can weaponize their own incompetence against you. They will purposely do a terrible job, knowing that your moral integrity and structural standards will force you to pick up their slack. But here is the part most people completely miss, which brings us to number 3. Method number 3 is the guilt reflex. Most people automatically deflect blame when things go wrong. They point fingers, make excuses, and rewrite history to protect their own ego. People with high calibration thinking default to rigorous internal auditing. You possess an overactive moral feedback loop. Your brain treats every conflict as a complex puzzle where you must have calculated a variable incorrectly. Before you ever accuse someone else of wrongdoing, you rigorously interrogate your own actions, searching for your own flaws. Think of a time when you finally gathered the courage to set a firm boundary with a toxic person. You tell them you cannot tolerate a certain behavior anymore. They react by acting deeply hurt, going silent, or twisting your words to make themselves the victim. Instantly, your chest tightens. You do not hold your ground. Instead, you ask yourself, was I too harsh? Did I explain it poorly? Am I actually the toxic one here? This instant guilt is not a sign of low self-esteem or weakness. It is extreme self-awareness and intellectual humility. You are constantly testing your own hypothesis. The punishing downside is that manipulators know exactly how to trigger this reflex. They know you will prosecute yourself. They just have to act slightly wounded, and they can sit back and relax while your own brilliant mind does the heavy lifting of tearing your boundary down. This is where it gets incredibly subtle. Method number 4 is the fairness fallacy. Most people operate on a zero-sum mentality. They look at life as a game where they need to extract as much value as possible for themselves, regardless of who loses. Ethical, macro-level thinkers operate on the principle of ecosystem equilibrium. Your brain processes social dynamics as an interconnected web. You are hypersensitive to power imbalances, and you subconsciously regulate your environment to ensure nobody feels diminished, left out, or threatened by your presence. You want things to be strictly fair. You might achieve something significant, a promotion, a financial win, a personal milestone, but you deliberately downplay it so your friends don't feel insecure. Or, during a salary negotiation, you ask for less money than you mathematically deserve because you don't want to seem greedy or cause friction for the other party. You shrink your own footprint so others have room to stand. This isn't a lack of ambition or a fear of success. It is systemic spatial awareness. You understand that your actions create ripples, and you try to manage the waves. The deeply frustrating downside is chronic undercompensation. You constantly negotiate against yourself to keep the peace, starving your own potential just to keep the ecosystem comfortable for people who would never do the same for you. Which leads us to the final psychological trap. Method number 5 is the de-escalation shield. Most people meet aggression with matched aggression, or they completely collapse into submission. High-bandwidth thinkers meet aggression with tactical emotional management. You have highly active mirror neurons paired with an advanced threat mitigation system. When someone is angry, irrational, or verbally attacking you, your brain actually suppresses your own fight-or-flight response in order to stabilize the other person's nervous system. You prioritize their emotional regulation over your own defense. Imagine someone is raising their voice at you, accusing you of something unfair, or having an emotional meltdown because things didn't go their way. Instead of defending your character or matching their anger, you soften your voice. You validate their feelings. You carefully choose your words to de-escalate their panic, completely ignoring the fact that they are actively disrespecting you in the moment. This is not submission. It is emotional mastery and psychological triage. You are disarming a bomb. The downside is profound emotional isolation. You spend your life acting as a human shock absorber for other people's emotional dysregulation. You create a dynamic where you are constantly managing their feelings, but your own feelings are never allowed to enter the room. We need to stop defining intelligence by the degrees hanging on a wall, the corporate titles on a resume, or the external markers of success that society praises. Those are merely metrics of compliance. They measure how well you follow rules. They do not measure the depth of your cognition. The goal here is to fundamentally shift the question you ask yourself when you feel exhausted, used, or confused in your relationships. you need to stop asking, am I a good enough person? Am I being too difficult? Am I doing something wrong? You need to start asking, how is my brain currently being targeted precisely because of its immense capacity for empathy and complex processing? When you understand the mechanics of these invisible traps, they immediately lose their power over you. You stop absorbing the guilt that belongs to someone else. You stop shrinking your perception just to make manipulators feel comfortable. You realize that your tendency to forgive, to analyze, and to take responsibility was never a sign of your weakness. It was a weaponized reflection of your capability. Take a moment and look back at the 5 points we just covered. Tell me in the comments down below which number hit the hardest for you. Which one perfectly described a situation you haven't been able to explain until today? If this video brought you clarity, hit the like button and make sure to subscribe to the channel. We will continue to decode the invisible systems around you. Stay observant.